So The War to Divine, which is out next week. What do you think?
Well, I think it's very much a sort of, a first feature. It's interesting. You brought up in that interview that it tied with the Babadook at the Australian Academy Awards, basically for Best Picture. And I think there's no question in my mind that the Babadook is the superior picture. However, what this is a solid, if flawed, piece of work. On the positive side, it's clearly done with heart and with passion. It is a heartfelt story. And a lot of the way it looks is to do with Andrew Lesnie's cinematography, which is really beautiful. It is a beautiful film to look at, and obviously we have the more modern day stuff, and then the flashbacks to the war, and they are distinguished by sort of grainier type in the flashbacks, which is a pretty sort of standard technique, but it works rather well. So you do cut between the two time periods well. So it's very, very easy to be seduced by the look of it. It also has a very sort of rich melodramatic theme, and it says something about the fact that it works at all, that you are able to take seriously the idea that somebody goes looking for their son, as a war to divine, and with some kind of, there is a spiritual thing going on underneath. How on earth is he possibly going to find this? And that never seems ridiculous. And I think that's actually very well achieved, because it'd be very, very easy to get that wrong. I think the weaknesses are, firstly, you brought this up, the English characters are, to a man, unsympathetic caricatures. And I think that I heard what he said, but I disagree. I think they are played in a very sort of caricatured manner. Secondly, there is, alongside this story about a father going back and searching for his sons, there is a completely arbitrary sort of non-romance, which is that when he turns up, the first thing he does is he walks into the hotel and sees a Bond girl, and there is this sort of, that's true. It's like there is something.
I wonder what's going to happen.
I wonder what's going to happen here, and I did feel that that was just an unnecessary. It was something that was just put there to make it play to a matinee audience, and it absolutely didn't need to do that. You kind of felt that Russell Crowe, what he really should have done is step back from that completely and said, actually, in this role, I'm playing a bereaved father. It's not to do with something which needs a kind of neat tying up at the end. That said, it is interesting the way in which it plays with its sympathies and with its national sympathies, and the way in which it does attempt to sort of take a slightly more kaleidoscopic view of a hideous historical tragedy. I think Russell Crowe, as a director, we all know he's a solid screen presence, but as a director, he clearly has, he has the ability. It was interesting when he said in that interview, I've been on more film sets than Ridley Scott has, and which on the one hand is a kind of arrogant. I've made 52 films, he's only made 20, which always reminds me of that thing from More Bad News. Jimmy Page was, I could play Stairway to Heaven when I was 13. Jimmy Page didn't write it till he was 26, and I think that says a lot. But it is solidly put together. It is well constructed. It is melodramatic. It is, it has a sort of syrupy, saccharine-y feel to it, which I think perhaps doesn't serve the drama best, but it is a good, solid, if overwrought and bagged down sometimes by its own need for romanticism story. But the central story itself is solidly told.